All right, everyone. Back with another episode. This is actually a landmark episode of the HYPEWORKS podcast. This is number 30. This is 30, which is kind of surreal, really. It's a big number. Someone said to me recently, like, most, like, 10% of all podcasts don't get past, like, 25. So we're doing pretty well here on 30. And Oliver, you're the first finance guest we've had on, so it's good timing because we're hitting big numbers, so it's good to have like a finance guy on the pod.
That's amazing. Glad to join the podcast at such a landmark day. Excuse me.
Awesome. Do you want to just drop in like a little bit about what you're doing right now, in terms of like you can kind of introduce your kind of like day-to-day stuff right now, and then we can kind of jump back a little bit because I know we both worked for the same company in the past and whatnot. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. So right now I am working as a financial advisor. I work and live in my New York City. And, as you can imagine, New York City has always been, considered as one of the major financial hubs. So, it's very, interesting and fascinating to join the industry because, as Alex mentioned, that I used to work in PR communications. So it's quite a different change for me. And in terms of daily activities, it can be different day to day, but in general, it's pretty much like there can be divided into several chunks, in the day. So in the morning, there's a lot of prep work in terms of, a lot of admin work on, who am I going to reach out to, who am I going to doing the reviews on, all those kind of financial plans. And during the day, we're just going to take meetings, as many meetings as possible. And then towards the end of the day, it's kind of like a regroup, recap on what am I going to do for the next day and what have I done for the past day. So hours can be long, can be short. It really depends on the flow of the day. I would say it's kind of different from what you really thinking about, say a financial banker or an investment bank or a financial looking in it like those investment bank system. It's a little bit different from that, because it's more like we're dealing with our clients on a kind of individual and personal base, but the investment bankers are more on the corporate level. So yeah, I hope I explained that well to you guys, and we can definitely get into more details.
It's not like, have you seen the film American Psycho?
That's more like investment bankers. They work long hours.
Okay.
I learned about their lifestyle from working
Kill
with them.
people.
Yeah, on the edge, always. So, I typically, it's very interesting because I am in the financial services industry and I actually work with a lot of financial people. And they are, they are the investment bankers. They are, a lot of financiers, and they really work crazy hours. I have a lot of friends who also work, all the banks. Um, you know, it can be challenging in terms of the workload.
Is that overblown? Because you read about a lot of that in the media. Like, is it as crazy as they make out in like the media? Like, you read online about like stories of bankers dying, like literally dying
Yeah.
on the job. Like, is it that
It's
crazy?
very interesting because, you just mentioned that, and yesterday there was a news article came out, and there's a young guy who was only 35 years old, and he just passed away at work. And yeah, and
Holy hell.
I wasn't surprised because actually he was my friend's coworker. And then last Thursday, when we were playing squash together, and he just randomly came out of blue, he told me that, oh, today I got an email that one of my coworkers just died, and it's shocking. But I think it's very sad that they do tend to work crazy hours. But it comes and goes. It
Yeah.
especially I would say the past month, it's earnings season. So every quarters, I would say there's a lot of crazy hours going on because, especially when you're
Yeah.
starting from being an analyst, being an associate, you have to work with a lot of different clients and you have to really build up your portfolios and resumes. So during that process, obviously there's a lot of sacrifices.
I have one question, and this is Alex. We've been down this path before. I'm about to go down it, but performance enhancing substances. Do you think that we won't get you in trouble? You don't have to mention any names, but within this sector, obviously, there's a notoriety that comes with it that people might use performance enhancing drugs. Is that something that you think is prevalent, perhaps like that might cause or induce any kind of like serious health risk within the whole money sphere?
Um, I think it's not a black and white answer, I would say. Not only in one specific industry, there can be multiple industries that I can name of. As long as you work crazy hours, there's always like, you have to take some boosters to keep you going. And, I'm just
Mm,
feeling that if there's any other alternative ways for them to not, maybe could get around it, because I personally, I don't take any, drugs or medications. And it's also a blessing for me that I've never worked like crazy long hours. But some
mhm.
people do that for fun, some people do that for daily routine. So it's I just feel like that's their personal choice. I would, just to answer your question, Jake, if it's drugs, obviously there's a lot of harms that can be done to your body. And I don't know if that's just like a causal relationship between passing away too early
Mm.
with the drug intake, or vice versa. I don't know if there's any very direct relationship, but there can be some triggers, and definitely there's some
Yeah.
contributions into it.
Yeah, I mean, people die of exhaustion even in China, right? In e-commerce companies like Pinduoduo, famous for people, passing away at the desk. Alibaba also has a reputation for people developing serious
Yeah,
health problems that working too many hours. And I'm 99% sure that those people are not on any performance enhancing substances. They're just overworked and tired and
Yeah.
stressed and probably not moving enough. Because they're not moving, they might not have a good diet, and because they're not moving, they don't have a good diet and they're exhausted. It's a cascading effect that these things compound to create people's ill health, and then people pass away far too soon. It's a
it
real
is.
tragedy.
I would say a human body is just very, very, and it's fascinating to me. Like all those kind of factors that we're experiencing, all the surroundings, can really make a lot of differences on our body, inside of our bodies. Um,
Speaking
Sure.
of overworked, Oliver, you used to be in PR like myself. What lessons did you take from PR to your current role now? Like, what are the kind of main things that you still kind of do, like that are PR
that's
related? Obviously, the
yeah,
relationships
that's
is
a
a
that's
key
a
one,
good
right?
question. I would say the communication skills definitely helps a lot. Um, when I started here, I've talked to a lot of people who have been in this industry, have been in this work for quite a long time. And I think if you want to be successful in this business, obviously you to have like very good work ethics. And on top of that, it's more about,
Mm.
how your personality shows in front of different people, how you kind of like charm people to be, developing a relationship with you. And it's very, you will be surprised at how many people like, it's more, their communication skills may not be very well polished, but it's just because of their good personality. And I think on top of that,
Mm.
it couldn't hurt to just like, maybe improve the way that you talk about things, be a little bit more strategic. I think that is something that I definitely learned, and, apply to from working in communications. Yeah, I think communication skills definitely help a lot.
Uh, what what made you make that switch? That is a big career move. So how did we get from let's go back. How did we start in where you ended up within PR and then making the change? How did that all come to happen? When did the journey begin for you?
Um, I would say, well, short answer is COVID. The long answer is, COVID. So during
Long
COVID,
COVID.
I lost my job at OnePlus, where Alex and I used to almost work together. So my job was kind of special because I work in the New York office, but my job was report to the headquarters. So it's like a headquarters headcount, but it just happen to be planted into New York City office. So when COVID happened, there's a lot of travel restrictions, and there's a lot of back and forth that is just like constantly under this long time difference. And back in the day,
Mm.
it's my manager was like very um, big on, we have to do the things in person. You have to come to Shenzhen for a couple months.
She loved stand-ups all over. Like every week there's a stand-up,
And
and we're like, God,
yeah,
why are
I
we doing
remember
this
those
again?
days.
Oh Jesus.
But when COVID happened, that's a no-go. So it's kind of like pushing me out in a way, that they're just like trying to, they've been diminishing my workload, and then eventually they feel like, it's just, it's not efficient. So they cut my position. So um I was let go, and I basically, for the next few months, I was just doing nothing. I was just like, taking my time off and try to think about what I'm going to do next. And obviously, still looking and trying to virtually network with the people. But I would say most of the time I spend was still within the communication realm. Um, I think it really made a difference when I get my, I would say the second or the third rejections from the companies that I applied for. And at that moment, I just feel like, is it really what I wanted? And not only because of the job itself, but also because the whole interviewing process just made me feel like, what am I doing here? Like, I can bring too much, I can bring a lot of on the table. You know, I am smart, but I just don't know what am I missing. Like, maybe it's time for me to maybe think about not work for anybody, just work for myself. And in the meantime, I was just like doing all those kind of, research on certain things that I can just like try to establish with the effort of my own. And at the meantime, my current company, the recruiters reach out to me, say like, hey, do you want to have a chat with us about, potentially working with us as a financial advisor? And at that moment, I still have zero idea what financial advisors do. So I did some research on my company, and I actually turned down a couple times. I just feel like, this is, I used to joke about it. I said, if there's only one job left in the world and it's sales related, I'm not going to do it, because I just don't feel like I have that kind of big personality that I can just really sell.
Sales gets a
And
bad
also
rep,
sales
right?
get bad rap,
When everyone thinks
especially
of
coming from
salespeople,
China.
yeah.
I, understand those salespeople. I was taught when I was a kid that, those salespeople are just like, they're 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 evil. They're trying to just like get your money out of your pocket. So yeah, so I turned down a few times, but in the meantime, I'm still doing my research, and I watched a lot of videos. I, continue to do a lot of research on my company. And first of all, I realized that it's a legit company. It's an old company. It's been in this industry for over 100 years, and got a good reputation. So I think I would say in January of 2021, I said, okay, let's give it a try. New year, new me, let's give it a try. So I responded to the recruiter again, say like, hey, maybe we can talk again. And yeah, and then I started the conversation with my companies, all those staff, the different kind of managers and stuff. And 2 months later, I walked in to back in the day, the office was still locked down, and I was the only person in the office. I was doing all the training virtually. I was, doing all the onboarding courses virtually, and then I started my journey by myself, literally like on my own. And till this day, I'm still working on my own in a way that I'm establishing my own business. I'm establishing my own practice. Yeah, so it's quite a long journey.
Yeah. It's like it's a consultant type role, right? Where basically you can use their brand and use their kind of network, but at the same time you have to start your own
Precisely.
like
Yeah.
firm, right? Essentially, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting business
Yes.
model. Um,
Yeah, explain how that works for the people in the audience and myself who don't fully quite understand. How's that
Sure.
start when you
So,
start on your own?
um, let me just explain what financial advisors are first. So, financial advisors are pretty much like your consultant or a doctor of your personal finance. So, working
Hmm.
with the financial advisors is, you know, can be divided into several capacities. So, if you're
Hmm.
talking about financial advisor, you're thinking about, okay, this person's going to handle my money. And what am my money is going to do with it?
Hmm.
Is it going to be like investment? Is it going to be like buying some products? And that is what we're going to help you understand. We're going to, first of all, um,
Right.
understand who you are, where you want to go, what kind of goal you want to achieve. And then we are going to take the information about your situation. That's kind of like diagnosis process. It's like taking your symptoms and taking your balance sheet, your, expense, your kind of like your assets, your liabilities, and then we're going to develop a prescription, which is the an actual plan for you to help you visualize, okay, there's our gaps in where I am and between where I am and where I want to be. And we're just going to give you the
Hmm.
recommendations on how you bridge the gap, how you shorten the journey of, achieving your goal by recommending different products or investment vehicles or strategies. And then you can take it, you can leave it, it's up to you. But, I would say more and more people are getting, are start realizing the help of, and the benefits of working with a financial advisor.
That was my question, Oliver. I was going to say, like, how financially literate are people when you talk to them? Like, out of 10, like, how many out of 10 like know roughly like how to invest?
And how many are all in on Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is not something that we would like to recommend, because it's still very new. It's not because of it's like a risky product. It's just because it's um, finance industry itself. It's very regulated. It's highly compliant. So as a Bitcoin, still a new product, we're very hesitant about making any kind of even comments on that. But I would say, I'm sorry, Alex, could you repeat your questions about?
So yeah, so like out of 10, like how many people roughly are reasonably financially literate, like understand like basic investment uh, ideas?
Threw him off with the Bitcoin there.
The number may shock you. I would say maybe between 1 or 3 out of 10.
Wow.
Because
yeah, that's bad.
there's it's just like I still want to use the analogy of going to see a doctor is like you have a symptoms, right? You have a symptoms that you feel like, oh, I may just catch a cold. But is that really a cold? So there's a lot of things like that in the kind of like self-diagnosis people out there, especially people who think they are financially savvy. There's no doubt that they are getting education from either from schools or from videos or from different kind of media resources. Even
Discord,
yeah, even Discord, even Reddit, right? So
Reddit, GameStop.
and that's actually a good
exactly.
example. Is like there's a lot of people having that kind of knowledge on paper. They know how to handle. They know how to make a change. But one thing is, do they know everything, or do they have a kind of like high level understanding on where you want to go on a long run? A lot of people are more like in a short term, investment. A lot of people, even GameStop people who, those group of people who started the GameStop frenzy, they are looking for something short term. And I would say working with the financial advisors really can make a difference on a long run. And
what's the more challenging clients, Oliver? Like the high net worth people or the people that are kind of more baseline?
I would say
from your perspective,
I wouldn't say everybody's challenging, but it's different kind of challenge, working with different kind of people. When I start working with, say, a person who just recently joined a company, obviously the challenge is cash flow, right? So you started working on building your wealth, accumulate your wealth, building up your assets, and it takes time. And, younger people, I think they may not, having that cash flow, or they may not have that kind of patience to wait for another 30, 40 years. And that's the challenge. And for higher net worth people, I would say the challenge is they may have like well-established portfolios already. There's really nothing else we can do. Or they may have too much money. And there's just like,
they don't
there's a
understand the
lot of
value of it,
things
right?
that they
there's so many people in life you meet that don't understand the value of money. Like I live in Hong Kong, right? And I meet so many. I'm sure you do in New York and Jake in Bangkok. Like you meet people and they just don't have a concept, like a grasp of like money, like what stuff costs and how much money they're spending. Like we all know people that are always on holiday. They're always buying shit. You know, like these people are just, they must be really hard to work with. As a planner, you know.
I think one thing that I learned about working as a financial advisor, and I really agree with you 100%, Alex, is we want to work with we want to work with a person who is, the ideal client is who's open-minded, who is nice, and who's a saver. So, anyone is missing, we can work around it. But yeah, I'm very, even for me, before, I think it made a huge impact on my personal life as well. After working as a financial advisor, is just like I wasn't a
How?
saver. I wasn't a saver, and always, trying to have fun, always trying to go to the next big restaurants, or spending on vacations, spending on, I don't know, clothes, or whatever, the next big gadget or something like that. And I think it's a trend for younger generations, for millennials, for Gen Zs, and um, it's one thing is like it's harder to save in New York, especially in the past couple of years, coming out of COVID, with the inflations going on.
Mm.
You know, I'm getting more sensitive about, after working here as a financial advisor, I'm getting more and more sensitive about talking about money with my friends. And just based on the conversation with my friends, I've been getting all those kind of similar messages, which is like, it's so expensive living in the city, it's so hard to save. Um, and but and I think social media also play a big role on pushing people into a certain
Mm.
lifestyle. You will always see people going on vacation. You'll always see
True.
people posting something
Yeah.
that you want to chase.
You know, we were just having a conversation before this podcast started because I live in Bangkok, and there's a lot of people in Bangkok. Bangkok has a lot of modern buildings with swimming pools on the roof. Like, it's very hot here, but people can emulate a lifestyle that I guess they couldn't afford without needing high levels of capital to attain that. As an example, like
It's
if you
probably the
place
place to
one
do
of
that, Jake, as well. It's probably the place to do that, I would
it
say.
probably yeah
Yeah.
yeah it probably is one of the places. So the sphere of social media in Thailand is just full of young people renting Lambos and swimming on the top of
True.
roofs. So I can imagine that if you've come from New York, like a suburb of New York, we'll say, where it's, you don't need loads. You probably live in your parents' house, and then all of a sudden you're paying $500 rent a month to have a swimming pool on the top of your roof, and I think probably $500 to rent a Lambo for the day. I think you can create a lot of envy to people in other places. I think social media plays a massive part in that, especially as well. Like, a lot of young people invested and staked in certain coins, like meme coins and even Bitcoin. Made money quickly. I mean, I certainly know a lot of people that generated a lot of wealth very quickly through tokens, crypto tokens, and they don't necessarily have lots of hard skills. They've generated a lot of wealth, and some of them are savvy and they're smart where they're developing other businesses around it. But a lot of people can get caught in the
Yeah.
sauce.
Totally. I think I was just thinking about what we just talked about, um, probably 20 minutes ago, about using drugs, and I think it's kind of like there's some similarities there. It's like we're always chasing for a temporary rush. either on social media or in our body. And I think, um, just coming back to what I'm doing here as a financial advisor, when we talk to people, and I I realize that, there's a lot of there when people start making a changes, is there's certain like milestone in their life. Either they got married,
Mm.
they start having babies, they start having families, they start considering
Hmm.
like sending their kids to schools, and those are the moments they realize that, oh, it's time for me to make a difference. It's time for me to really plan something.
Yeah.
And before that, I think, I have a lot of friends who are very single, and very, very single. I think they want to be single forever. And single people is, I think that's the challenge for them to understand those kind of behaviors, is like, I have no dependent. I just live by myself. I
Mm.
life is too short. There's always like, YOLO. There's always FOMO. Um, and
It's pretty
and
much us,
and
right,
you
Jake?
know, it's
Hey, hey.
there's no wrong. There's nothing wrong to do that, but it's just like, um, I think, there's a lot of, I don't know who to blame, honestly. Or there's no blaming game here. It could be generational. It could be, lifestyle. So yeah.
Here I go. Here I go, Alex. Okay, so something that I've been contemplating recently, because a lot of people, there's a lot of acronyms going around. A lot of people saying, I've got ADHD recently. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but a lot of people are saying that ADHD. Now, I imagine, and they say that levels of ADHD are rising because of things like TikTok and short form videos where it requires a lot of attention. So people are chasing that dopamine high, that hit, that rush that we've alluded to, right? So I wonder if social media, the actual impact of TikTok and short form video content depletes people's dopamine systems, whereby they might also therefore want to chase highs in other aspects of their life, be it financial, such as I'll go all in on Pepe coin and try and get the Lambo within the next 20 days. And I wonder if there's like a correlation between the mindset of the youth, the Gen Zers, the young people growing up with social media, where people chase dopamine highs more and more frequently, or what's the word, more and more, people's attention spans are getting shorter, and also their relationships with things like money, where they don't necessarily think long term, because everything, attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and people are chasing those dopamine highs more readily.
I don't know if there's any correlations between having ADHD and, working with financial advisor in the long run, but I definitely see that, in my daily activities. I talk to a lot of younger people,
Mm.
especially single younger people. They, like you
Hmm.
said, Jake, they don't like things that will accumulate the wealth on the long run. They cannot wait for another 10 years. Literally, I had a conversation yesterday with a person who works for an investment bank. He said, can you tell me something? Can you tell me your strategies on, if I give you XYZ amount of money, I give you a time frame? And I said, what's the time frame? 3 years. And he felt like 3 years is
Hmm.
long enough for them to build up like a wealth on to a certain level. And I think part of our job is education, and part of the job is really try to either set the expectations, or, um, put their expectations in check. There's a lot of,
Sounds like
Do you think
PR.
that
Sounds like
there's
PR
more?
all over.
Do you think there's more pressure though in modern society? That there's more pressure that people feel like they've got to beat the rate of inflation. Their wealth is always, depreciating in value, and everything's increasing in value. So that pressure that's happening within the societies, but also maybe influencing the way that people perceive the length of the timeline. Our parents' generation, their timeline or their time horizons might be longer, but they also might not necessarily have the same kind of pressure as economies, especially in the West, were growing and booming. Whereas you could argue right now that perhaps they're shrinking in a lot of sectors.
I think so. I think I don't know. I think I just feel like younger people, including me, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So instead of just worrying about what may happen, what may not happen in 30 years, maybe just focus on the next year, next 6 months. I think there's definitely a lot of layers between that, but I don't know why there's we kind of like defining different generations by their behaviors, or is because of the behaviors we define each generation. It's always kind of an interesting question for me. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, the environments change, right? So the pressures of society, regardless of your age, they change. But what you've lived through and accumulated as experience will also shape the mindset that you have in the world. I think that would be my perspective. We're coming on to the final segment, Alex, which it nicely ties into the future predictions here, because
I just want to ask Oliver one quick one though. We just launched a merch store recently. Here's a merch, literally just arrived today. Here's a question. So imagine we sold the merch store, like someone came along and bought the store. They gave us $10 million. How would we invest that? Like, hypothetically, if we got a big chunk of money like that, 10 million.
Well, $10 million, I would say.
Put you on the spot.
Again, we have to figure out what your goals are, right? What's your trajectory? And if you just want to,
we would buy a Lambo each and then invest the other 8 million.
If you want to know how to spend that $10 million, sure, there are so many ways to spend it. But if you want to use wealth to accumulate wealth, all the rules are very basic. There's always 7-3, 8-2, 6-4. That kind of portion is you want to put something on a long-term investment, and then the rest for a short-term investment. So
I'm guessing lots of different asset classes, like
there's a
stocks,
lot of asset
bonds,
class,
real estate, whatever.
And risk level as well. Long-term products have lower risk, short-term has higher risk, and also there's also like liquidity related. There's some taxation related, credit related. So I think if you want to say invest $10 million, again, back to the question, what's your goal? If your goal is trying to use the money to get some quick money, then I would say maybe put 30% or 40% of that money into some higher risk areas, stocks, some investment, and then let it run. And then that cycle is mostly like on a daily, monthly, or you can get some results in a year or so. And then if you're saying that I want to pass along to I don't know, for my retirement, or pass along for my future generations, then we can think about okay, there are some areas that you want to do for a long run. There's a lot of regulations and taxations involved as well. And also depends on where you live.
So what you're saying is, yeah,
It
it
really
really
depends
depends. There's so many
because
variables, right?
that's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
my company, for example, we don't have like overseas operations. We only focus on the U.S. market, and I think a lot of companies do that, and just focus on certain areas. But some other companies like Morgan Stanley, Citi, JP Morgan, they have overseas practice, but they also have to buy into their local laws and regulations. So one big part is taxation, and tax can be very tricky. Different countries have different taxation laws, and also on the flip side, there's a lot of taxation loopholes, and how are we going to either leverage that or take advantage of those is what financial advisors.
Yeah. I remember reading Google, like Facebook, all these big tech companies, because they don't sell physical goods, they make advantage of like Ireland. So they put all their profits through Ireland, and I guess we're kind of screwed because it's a physical good.
um,
So we can't
yeah. So
escape the
and
tax
also
man.
like just like you said, like for example, Amazon and a lot of big tech companies, they give employees a lot of bonus in their stocks. It's not physical like money. And they said,
Yeah.
for example, the Amazon, from what my previous interview experience with Amazon, they set their base salaries to, I think, only to the highest base salary you can get is 160,000 US dollars. They don't pay
Yeah, they don't
a
pay that
lot
well,
for
right?
base salary,
Generally.
but they have like a very complicated
Yeah.
grid for the RSU, which is their stocks options for their bonus. And obviously, Jeff Bezos, he probably makes like the base salary, but the stocks he has like
Yeah, yeah,
millions
yeah.
of stocks. Um, just because the salaries is you have to pay certain level of tax on your base salary, and then you pay extra tax on your bonus and stuff. So it's a lot of like a lot of play around. So yeah.
So actually, in many cases, you might advise clients not to sell. Just hold on to your assets, like for taxation, or like generally, you're better
or
off if you
or just
keep stuff.
utilizing some alternative vehicles. They are um, tax deferred. So there's tax deductible, there's tax deferred. There's like, I think I'm getting into some, too nitty-gritty here, but like, there's some non-qualified, there's some qualified, and so just put it this way, I don't know how familiar you are with like, the U.S. retirement situation. So a lot of people used to have pensions, but now I think a lot of people use 401ks. And then 401ks is like one of the kind of like retirement fund for people most of the day, mostly nowadays. And 401k is one of the qualified plan, which means that you put your pre-tax dollars in, it's tax deductible, and then when you take the money out, you pay tax.
Yeah,
And the flip side is what we call
yeah,
non-qualified. And there are some products, under the non-qualified umbrella, which means that you put post-tax dollar in, and then you let it grow for a certain amount of years, and you take the money out tax-free. So there's all good and bad for each product for both sides. But the good way is always diversify it. If you want to take away with, if you want to have some takeaways, two sentences from this podcast is always um, always saving, always educate yourself with the different kind of um, products and strategies, and work with a financial advisor. And second is diversify your portfolio.
we'll put your details in the description.
Thank you.
Send our audience your way.
Alex, I noticed how you didn't say Lambo in that sentence there. Okay, the future predictions, Oliver. So we're always talking future predictions. you can talk about anything. It can be future predictions for you, future predictions for the world, future predictions for finance. What are your future predictions?
Wow. That's a big question. Future predictions. How long is the future?
Future prediction for Oliver. What is Oliver's future?
I'm not a big
Lambo.
car person. Well, first of all, I don't know how to drive. So I think that will be my future. My future is like I want to own a selfless drive car. And I think there's something already happening in San Francisco. I hope in the near future, either Tesla or some other companies are going to put all those car in the market and people can get it. And I don't know about if there's any laws with traffic laws going to change, but that's something that I would definitely love to see. And for me, I would say in the future, retire early, enjoying my life, travel around the world, doing the kind of regular stuff, what younger people are doing already on social media.
Freedom is good, yeah.
Yes, it's very,
Financial
that's,
freedom.
there you go.
Financial
I
freedom.
think
That
that's
is
what
the-
we've been advocating.
There you go. We'll use that in the title.
It's not necessarily freedom, it's financial independence. You want to have independence. You don't want to have, when you say financially independent, it's not about you start making money. It's start when you feel like you don't have to work for money. That's what we've been asking people
That's good.
for the last round of questions for our clients or prospects is, when do you want to be financially independent? Is when you don't want to, or when you don't need to work for money. You can work work for your love, for your passion, but you don't need to work for the money. But now a lot of people are still, including me, I'm still working for my money. So yeah, that's a big thing for people. And I think that would be a big moment for everybody when they realize that, oh, actually, you know what, I can retire now and I don't have to earn the salary because I have enough money for me to live on. Or borrow from my parents.
That's a great note to end on, actually. I think everyone's going to be inspired now. Just work our asses off.
I think
and
independence
retire.
is a big thing. We've been
Sounds easy.
We've been advocating for independence on all sorts of level. And I think financial independence is something that we thought we knew, but, it's not always the correct, kind of idea in our mind. So now you get it. Financially independent, it means that you don't have to work for money.
That's it.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
Oliver.
much.
Thanks for your
fun.
time. We'll get you on in a year. We'll get you on a year's time and
Yes,
see where
please
we
check
are
in with
terms
me
of
in a year.
Our situation, whether we, we might be
There you
retired
go.
by then. Never know.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right.
It's so fun.
Cheers,
See ya.
guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Oliver. Bye-bye.